plus AI analytics industry leaders associated with it. Uh, there are 100 plus academic institutions who have been associated with 3i Catapult. 110 plus leading organizations, participants from different organizations who are into this. So today's topic, we wanted to cover 3i Catapult in detail. I'm sure each one of you would be looking into how you can build a career in AI analytics at some phase or the other. Some of you would be already at a phase where you already know about the AI analytics piece. Some would be starting your career in AI analytics. And so today we thought, let's spend some time in terms of looking into what does 3AI Catapult, which is the AI analytics assessment. Spend some time on what does it mean from a career in the field of AI analytics. What does it mean in terms of a current and future scope? What does the overall 3i Catapult program construct look like? Uh, what is specifically unique about this program? What are the benefits of this program? uh, uh, Also giving information around when does the exam happen, how to prepare for Catapult, some tips and tricks, the study resources which are available, and who better than Satyamoy. Uh, just to introduce Satyamoy, Satyamoy is a seasoned analytics professional. He has been in the industry for around 18 plus years and has had a deep focus on banking, financial services industry, and has been in different roles in Citi, G, and now is the Executive Vice President of Analytic Data Lab, specifically involved around leading the client solutions and product strategy at Analytic Data Lab. For those who don't know, Analytic Data Lab is one of the fastest growing analytics startup headquartered in US and has different offices in US, Bangalore, Pune, and uh, Satyamoy has been instrumental in driving the technology-enabled solutions for Analytica, and also has been part of the core team in creation of patented ML and AI platforms specifically. Welcome, Satyamoy. We are really looking forward to this session from you, and the audience here is really looking forward in terms of key insights in terms of what 3i Catapult is, and then going into detail there and what does it actually really mean for them. So over to you, Satyamoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kapil. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, 3AI, for having me here today. First of all, apologies for a couple of minutes delayed start. There's some technical glitch in the morning. I'm glad that we have got over that. So thank you, Kapil, again for the kind introduction. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for your time joining. So what I planned today, I will cover, and as I speak, I'll share my screen as well. So maybe one of you can confirm if my screen is visible so that I know and get started.
Yes, Satyamoy, we can see.
All right. So great. So we have been Analytica Data Lab, as Kapil introduced. We are an analytics and AI platform solution company with a strong focus on the education technology front, right? And about 6 months back, we partnered with 3AI to launch this analytics and AI assessment platform, which is virtual, online, kind of AI enabled as well, to bring to you the assessment framework in this the analytics and AI space. So I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to demonstrate that through a live program, and also introduce you to how how it is constructed, how it can be accessed, and what are the tools of the trade that you need to know. And reserve the last 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please take a note of it, and I'll be very happy to answer towards the end. If we are not able to cover all the questions today, I'll be glad to take it later as well as a follow-up. Okay, so does it sound good, Kapil? Shall I get started with the presentation?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, great. So, let me just begin with the usual, right? So, pretty much all the analytics and data science presentations or discussions start with some quotes, and you may have heard this a million times. So, one more time doesn't hurt. The first one is, "In God we trust, all the others bring data," which means now all the decisions that are being made across different industry verticals across function, data is taking the prime seat, right? It has become inevitable for any decision process, any decision management process, any thought leadership process where it is vetted through the factual information, and there's nothing called gut feel anymore. So whichever, and I know many of you are students here or early career professionals. So wherever you go in your professional journey, you cannot stay alienated with the data anymore. So that's a given fact. Information is the new oil, by Peter Sandgard, who was a very senior Gartner executive. He came up with this, and it's rightfully so. And all these are, although came a little bit early, it's still very relevant, because information truly is the new oil, and it is getting fueled by it is getting driven by analytics engine, which is the combustion engine, according to him. And data scientist still remains the sexiest job of the 21st century. It is among the top paying profiles: the data scientist, data engineering analyst, business analyst, and so forth. Right, the various forms of job roles are available across the globe, and still remains the sexiest job of the 21st century. It's going to be like that for some time now, and perhaps it's going to get accelerated because of the pandemic, where there's a lot of digitalization focus across industry verticals functions. So the job roles are going to get accelerated as well. So what does this mean, right? So we all know that the importance of data, the importance of analytics, data science application. What does it mean for us? So there's three inevitable questions that we need to answer. Number one, how does we know if we have the aptitude to be successful in the space? Now, many of you would know that pretty much a lot of things in the industry 4.0, the gig economy is driven by the FANGs of the world. Google, about 6 months back, came up and made a bold statement that they are now, in their hiring process, they are now not going to give as much as the formal on the formal education front, as long as the candidates have the right skill, as long as they go through the right program. So the way this space is getting viewed is also changing, and Google started, Netflix kind of supported that, the Facebooks of the world and others will follow, right? And they are kind of creating a lot of disruption in this field, and rightfully so, as the field is accelerating day in and day out. So which means we need to know that whether we have the right aptitude coupled with the right interest to be successful in the field. So that is number one. How do you know that? That is one question that we're going to answer today, right? Number two, how does one position oneself strongly in front of the hiring managers? So how do you come up with the formal education, you come up with the right skill set? How do you make the hiring manager believe that? What is the hiring manager looking for, right? I mean, what are the few traits the hiring managers, the companies, when they hire, or they look for to get somebody in the career, progress in the career path? What is that looking for? That's the second question we need to know, and I'll attempt to answer that as well today, right? And the number three is, what does one continuously prepare oneself to be abreast with the progress in the field? The field is rapidly increasing, and many of you know that there are 9 technology areas which are going to lead the way in as are going to the skills of the future. Analytics, AI is one of them, and then there are AI also has different streams: data analytics, machine learning, robotic process automation, natural language processing. All these things are going to become mainstream, because nobody can be alienated on adoption of all these things anymore, right? So number one question, what kind of aptitude? How do I know that I have the aptitude to be successful? Number two, how do I position myself to be in the forerunner to be successful in this area as a professional? And number three, how do I make sure I'm continuously evolving myself, right? So with those thoughts in mind, let me just present a couple of data as well before I get into the demonstration of the assessment framework. So LinkedIn, about a few months back, I think 6 to 8 months back, they came up with a result of a primary research survey where they focused on the Asia Pacific and Australia. The four key markets that they focused on were India, Singapore, Australia, and Japan, right? And they did a primary research survey. They interviewed a lot of hiring managers, L&D leaders, as well as the employees. Good sizable sample size, and they asked the question that what are the traits, what are the key skills that they are looking for the future of work, right? So some of the things which came up. Number one that came up was critical thinking and problem solving. So you'll see that this is the highest among in all the economies, where critical thinking and problem solving is the most important soft skill trait that the industry is looking for. Second one was adaptability and flexibility. So the changes are, the change is the only constant. It has been there forever. It's going to be almost true here on, that it's the economy is going to change, the market is going to change, how you are being received is going to change. So you need to adapt to that changes. So the flexibility in the behavior is going to be one of the primary skills as well. Third one is innovation and creativity. You need to be continuously evolving yourself. You need to be looking for innovation. You need to be able to connect the dots very, very properly to have that creative application. You to keep on evolving yourself for that creative application. And the fourth and fifth one are communication and collaboration, which are by the way very, very important as well. But comparatively, the top three are critical thinking, adaptability, innovation, and creativity. Now, this survey was not only focused on analytics and data science as a space, but it was generally the traits which they are looking for, which the industry is looking for somebody to be successful in the future of work. Right? So keep these three things in mind. What we did, right? What we did as we were kind of on the drawing board, on the anvil to launch this assessment framework, we also did our primary and secondary research with a very strong focus on the analytics and data science and ML and AI area. So we interviewed a good sample size of hiring managers and leaders in India and United States. And we asked them one question, right? What are the essential skills for somebody to be successful in the applied analytics and data science? So initially we focused on the applied analytics and data science area, and we asked this question. So we got these answers. We got several answers, but these three answers, both on the hard skills and the soft skills side, which kind of topped the list across the board. For the hard skills, they wanted to have somebody aspiring a career or want a career progression in this space is number one, applied knowledge of algorithms. So all of you would know that that it's kind of data science is also about algorithms and how does one get better in applying those algorithms. The field is growing rapidly and pretty much everything is available now, right? We are heading very fast towards open sources, but somebody needs to know when to apply what. The algorithms, the science part is figured out, so that came as one of the top order priorities. Number two, programming skills. So programming skills, although in future we are going to go towards a low code and no code kind of a platform and tool if you want to if you have interest in the career in this space, but still programming is going to be important, and Python and R are the most celebrated tools, right? So most celebrated programming language in this space. So that is something which is essential. And number three is the ability to apply in a business context. So whenever you are in a professional space, whatever you're doing it for a purpose, and it has to make some business sense, right? It has to create some level of some level of impact. The sooner you realize that and the better you get towards contextualization, the probability of you being successful in this space becomes exponentially high, right? So there are three things which came up as a skill. In terms of the soft skill, again, there's a validation in this niche space as well, where critical thinking and problem solving becomes number one, the requirement, very essential. Number two, effective communication, because you need to, sometimes, analytics is also about telling the right story to the right stakeholder. stakeholder at the right time. And as McKinsey coined the term some years back, as translation is very, very important, right? So how you're connecting your finding, which are hard findings, through the data, drawing insights, information, and then translating into very effectively towards the stakeholders, so that you're telling your story very effectively. So communication is important, and agility and flexibility. So the field is going to be continuously evolving. So the more agile you are, the more flexible you are in adopting to that change, the better you are poised to be successful in this environment. So going back, the three questions, that how do I know I have the aptitude? How do I impress the hiring manager? How do I make sure that I tell my story properly to the hiring managers to be successful in landing up in a good job, in a good role that I'm looking for, and how to be successful? And number three, how do I continuously evolve myself? And these are the skills which are necessary skills to be successful, right? So keeping those in mind, and this is the last slide before I get to the demo. So critical thinking, problem solving, and the ability to apply oneself for a given context are the key elements a hiring manager looks for, right, to fill for a essential job role. How does it translate into the applied analytics and data science space? So here are the key skills which is translating to. You need to be good at data visualization, data mining, exploratory data analysis, insight generation, what-if analysis, statistical techniques, storytelling, analyzing on a business point of view, or business analytics, getting into the predictive and prescriptive analytics space. Got to be good at optimization, right? So not only you need to be sound at algorithmic application, but also optimizing your prescription based on the situation, based on the context, programming skills, machine learning, and NLPs. Now, if you look at, there are a variety of job roles which are available. There are about a research that came in globally. There are about 55 job roles pertaining to the analytics, data science, ML/AI space. About 15 and 16 are very prominent. But all these three kind of roll up into three job families, if you will, based on the experience level, based on the interest and the skills, right? Data analyst, business analyst, and data scientist. And if you see that there are a lot of overlaps, right? So you'll see that there's a overlap between data analyst and business analyst in terms of the skill set, and there's also overlap between the business analyst and data scientist in terms of the skill set, because still the area is fairly gray. So you need to be kind of cognizant of this as you prepare for stepping into your career in this space, right? So you'll see the overlap. So let me just stop here, and before I get to the demo, the essence behind this assessment framework. So first of all, you need to have the education background, which is important. Perhaps may not be that important in the future, as long as you are skilled properly to create impact in this space, right? So there are ample of training material available out there. There are MOOCs the universities are offering. There are online courses. There are third-party providers. As you get into the job roles, there are in-house training and skilling programs which are available, right? So it's kind of one way to look at it is it's a problem of plenty as well, as to how do you look for choosing the right one for you, right one for your aptitude, for interest areas, and the skill that you want to develop. Keeping all this aside, one thing that is missing in the industry is the right assessment framework, and that's where we joined our hands. We came together on the table and went through rounds of brainstorm, designed our research activities, talked to the horses, right? To the hiring managers, what are they looking for, and some of those I shared. Now, one thing that was absolutely missing in the industry is how do you have a framework that assesses one for the critical thinking and problem solving abilities, their ability to be agile and nimble, and their ability to be contextual, right? And that's where the genesis of this assessment framework, which is 3AI Catapult, came into play. The team worked really hard over the last 6 to 8 months to bring it to life, and now it is live, right? So what I'm going to show you is already available. Many of you, I'm sure, would have looked at it. It's called it's 3AI Catapult, right? So it's the URL is, okay, let me just get to the, okay. So the URL is 3AICatapult.analytica Let me just log out from here so that I can show you the front page. So this is how the portal looks like, right? And there are several. We are launching with the foundation of analytics and AI as the first assessment, which is going to happen on 24th April at I think at 11 o'clock is when there's a 2-hour assessment that's open now. You can go ahead and book that assessment. Before that, feel free to take the mock assessment. So the mock assessment looks exactly like the main assessment, and I'm going to cover so that you'll understand what are the different sections it covers, what are the elements that you will be assessed on, and how to prepare for those as well, right? So we have, if you look at this timeline, we have the first one is on 24th April, the second one is on 5th of June, and the third one is on 4th of September, and the fourth one and the last one this year is on 27th November. These are the schedules, and we have gone ahead with launching one of the mock assessments, and there will be several mock assessments which will be launched subsequently as well. Okay. Now, if you click on the essence, so there are a lot of self-help videos in here. You should go. You can go and explore, watch the video to get yourself acquainted with the concept, the essence behind it, how it is structured, and so forth. You can read through a lot of content out there, and I'll highlight a few here before getting into one of the mock assessment to show you live how it is structured. So you will be measured based on three sections. So the first one is going to be, all right. So the first one is going to be objective type questions, which are of 50 marks overall. It will be time bound, 20 minutes out of the 2 hours, 20 minutes is allocated for the 15 questions. The questions will be such a way that there are 10, based on the difficulty level, there are 10 questions which are 2.5 marks each, and then 5 questions which are 5 marks each. And the assessment is designed very carefully, so it has very good representation of all the topics. And at the end of the assessment, you are not only going to get a certificate if you qualify, but you are also going to get a detailed report which will highlight your strengths and weaknesses in terms of how you fared in the assessment, and also compare you with how the average scores across each of the topics have been. It will also highlight what are the gaps that you have, and so that you can prepare to fulfill those gaps to be successful in the fundamentals of analytics and AI skill set. Right. Section 2 is designed to assess you based on your programming skills. Now, you do not need to know both Python and R. One is good enough, and you need to know the basics of programming for Python and R. And there is a detailed syllabus which is available, which will be also be made accessible to you through this portal and otherwise as well, so that you'll get to specifically know what are the areas that you need to focus on to prepare for. But the section 2 is going to be of 25 marks, 5 questions of 5 marks each, where you need to program live, right? There's a console which is integrated in here. You need to go and program, and you'll be assessed based on answering the question, at the same time how you program your programming skills as well. And section 3, which is very important, which will be case study based, right? So there will be 2 cases. One will be a difficulty level low. The second will be medium to high, where there will be a business case which will be presented in front of you, and you need to solve the case, right? Live. Now you can do that either by programming, or you can utilize the IP platform which is integrated in here to utilize the functions and the algorithms point and click. So if you do not, if you are not too keen in programming, no problem. You can still apply yourself by point and click. That's what you'll be assessed on based on your critical thinking, problem solving, and application orientation. So if you see that this 2 hours is very, very carefully structured, so that you get an opportunity to showcase your skill across the 3 different areas. The primary essence behind designing this section, each of the section, is to make you apply, right? So that you're kind of honing your critical thinking, problem solving, contextual application, and then you'll be assessed based on that. And this is what the industry is really looking for, and that's what has not been there so far. So all the assessments which are out there are either multiple choice question based and kind of gravitated towards theoretical understanding as against application orientation. So if you look at the topic, right, there are, and I'll not go through the details of the topic. And here also we have the highlights of the topic. There will be a detailed syllabus which will be circulated to you later, so that you can take a look at each of it. But there are 5 topics that you need to focus on. First one is probability and statistics for data science. Very very important, right? Because it's a gray zone. Always you are operating on in your career all throughout. So you are making decisions based on approximation and how do you increase the probability, right? And not a definitely pretty much all the time. So probability and the statistics application is important because you're going to deal with a lot of data pretty much all the time. How do you present your data, the data visualization skills, right? Creating the charts and graphs, not only your skill on creating those charts and graphs, but what kind of visualization is required to interpret the data, for somebody to interpret the data in the right way. So that's why you'll see that there's a lot of emphasis on univariate, bivariate, multivariate, and the visualization of continuous as well as categorical variable. So you need to be able to understand when to apply what, right? And that's what you'll be assessed on. Data pre-processing and data preparation for analysis and modeling, right? So as I'm sure all of you know that that before you actually get to the science, it's very science of application of algorithms. It's very important to build a very good relationship with the data, right? So there's a lot of emphasis in the industry on exploring the data in the right manner, imputing, because data pretty much all the time is not clean, right? It's just confined to the lab where you get a very clean, nice looking data in front of you. But in the real industry, application data is always very, very noisy. So you need to know how to eliminate those noise out of the data. How do you treat the data in the best possible way? And that is something the industry is looking for. Your skill in terms of applying different techniques for preparing your data before you get into your analytics or modeling or ML application. That's important. That's an important topic of this syllabus as well. Then feature engineering, right? Many of you know that for the ML and predictive modeling application, feature engineering becomes very, very important because you're always going to work on a limited set of parameters. How do you derive most out of your parameters by engineering and introducing new feature? So there's a very well evolved science behind it, but most important, how do you contextualize based on your data, based on the business context to do that, right? So feature engineering becomes one of the topic, and the last one is the fundamentals of machine learning. So we do not expect you to know machine learning, pretty much all the algorithms are machine learning, but the fundamentals is what you'll be assessed on. Subsequently, there will be different assessments which will be launched, which will get into different levels of complexity, different levels of skill set. This is the fundamentals ones. It will be confined to the introductory features, and then 2 of the still very popular techniques in the industry that you need to know very well as a linear regression and logistic regression. Both are supervised, so you need to be abreast with these techniques. So there are 5 topics that you'll be assessed on, and then there are the other details that you need to go through on how the sections are designed. Very, very simple UX, so that understanding on how to utilize this tool, if you will, is not a concern because it's very, very straightforward. So let me do something. Let me get into, and I think at 11:30 I have about 10-15 minutes more to walk you through one of the mock assessments to make you a little bit closer to the assessment framework. Okay, so what I'm going to go now, I'm going to, as soon as I click on the take assessment now, my assessment gets active. Okay. Okay, so it's asking me to log in. I'll just go ahead and log in. Okay, so here you'll see that there are 3 sections, and there are some rules of the road that you need to follow. That you need to keep your camera on. You need to there will be a picture that will be clicked, which will be part of your certificate, and there's a algorithmic proctoring monitoring that's going to happen right in the couple of hours that you be in front of the system to take the assessment. Now 2 hours is designed fairly well, so that hopefully there won't be any time constraint as you take this assessment. So let me start with the first section, which is objective types. As soon as I click here, and I'll not focus too much on the questions, but how it is structured. So this section has 10 questions that 2.5 marks each, and 5 which are a little bit higher on difficulty level of 5 marks each. So you'll see that although these questions, many of it will come as a theoretical question, but the emphasis again is to think and apply. Right. So the first question, let me read what it is. Which measure of central tendency is used if the frequency distribution of data is skewed? So it is trying to ask you, trying to understand that if you understand the distributions better, right? So if it is fairly well distributed, right? Now, one form of distribution is the normal distribution. There are other forms of distribution as well. But one example is when the distribution is skewed. If you look at the income level, right, as an example, where the top deciles skew the averages, right? So at that point in time, the average may not be the right measure of central tendencies, is what this question is trying to assess you on. So I'll go ahead and say, okay, median is in this kind of situation, probably median is the answer. So I answer. When I click next, I'll go to the next question. You will see that the overall time limit left is 119 minutes. And for this specific section, which is 19 minutes, right? 19 minutes is the cutoff time after which there will be an auto submission. But if you are able to complete this section in 10 minutes, you set your 10 minutes free for the other 2 sections, right? Otherwise, there are about out of the 120 minutes, 100 minutes are allocated for section 2 and section 3, which is pretty sizable. So I'll not worry about the timing that much. Now, the second question is, which of the following would indicate that a data set is not bell-shaped? So a bell-shaped or a normally distributed data is bell-shaped. So I'd like to probably take a guess here that if the range is equal to 5 standard deviations, so probably it's bell-shaped, right? So the range is larger than the interquartile range, then no outliers. The mean is significantly smaller than the median. So if the mean and median are not close by, then probably it is not bell-shaped, right? So I'm just guessing here. Now I'm not too sure. So what I'll do is I'll go and mark it for review, right? So when I say mark it for review, it's going to remind me later. So you'll see a small tag here. So which means that it will remind me towards the end that, well, I was not too sure about this question. So I'll come back and revisit this question review, and I may want to change my answer. Now, this next one is a Pearson correlation between 2 variables 0, but their value can still be related. So I'll say, okay, that can be true. Sometimes I'll go say true, and I'll go to the next. Next question is 5 numbers are given, and now now what would be the sum of the deviation of the individual data points from their mean, right? So I need to first take the mean. What is not there in the framework now is a calculator, which will be released in a couple of days. So you can do some calculations here as well, because if you're not too good with mental math, you can use the calculator. That's fine. So you can first calculate the mean, then see the deviation, and then do the sum, right? Now, I want to revisit this later. I do not want to tag as well, because I'm not putting any answer yet. When I say click next, then you'll see that number 4 is not highlighted, which means I skipped number 4 and I straight away went to number 5. So I'll go ahead and it will remind me that number 4 is what I did not attempt, right? There's no negative marking. So, feel free if you're doing a kind of a probability guesswork as well, that's fine too. Select the correlation with definition of precision, right? So this is the formula that I need to. So likewise, this section is designed pretty straightforward. This is a multiple choice as well as multiple select based. So there are some questions where one or more answers can be right as well, which will be indicated to you in a very, very clear way, so that you will know. So that's how you navigate through the first section. Okay. Now I have about 16 minutes left. I can go to the section 2. I can complete this section and go to section 2. That's my wish. But let me go to the section 2 so that I can give you an overview of how the section 2 looks like, right? So so here, you feel free to do some coding, right? So let me just do something here. Okay, so this section is where you'll be evaluated based on your coding skills. So these are the 5 set of questions, and you have this console, the coding console, in front of you. And many of you who have interest in programming, I'm sure all of you would be familiar with the Jupyter console. So what we have done is the Jupyter console is integrated in here, and in order to answer the questions, you need to code in either Python or R. You do not need to know both, right? So you have a choice to either program in Python or R. And based on your answer and based on the coding skill, you will be evaluated, right? So there will be a backend evaluation, which is going to be based on a man-machine kind of a blend. So first there will be an algorithmic evaluation of your programming to kind of narrow it down, and then it will be given to the experts who will be evaluating based on your programming skills. So there are 5 questions. I'll not go through the details of each of it, but here's the console which is provided, and you can actually code and let me see if I get the data right. And I can check if my program runs or not. So name game is not defined, so I haven't defined. I haven't downloaded the libraries. But as you apply for this section, you will be able to code and the codes. The requirement is pretty simple coding, and the performance is also pretty good. So you do not need to. Your code will run fairly rapidly. So there are 5 questions which are code based, and then you go to the section 3 is where there's going to be a case based evaluation. So so there are, in this particular assessment, there are 2 sections, or there are 2 cases which are presented. The first case looks like this, right? And I'll spend a little bit more time so that you are familiar with first two sections are pretty straightforward. This section is where you need to know certain things. Right? So the first one is context and the business case. So the business case details will be provided in front of you. This particular case is where you will be having access to the stock market data, where the data for Apple and the Microsoft stocks at a daily level, and there are different statistics of that stocks on how did it fare at a daily level is presented in front of you, and you would need to understand how the stocks, how these 2 companies are performing in terms of their market, in terms of their stock performance over the period of time, and how they're faring in terms of the S&P indexes. S&P Standard and Poor is one of the index that is followed in the US, like we follow sensitive index or Nifty in India. Similarly, in US is the S&P as one of the index that is followed. So now the objective of this case is to look at the data and see whether the Apple is doing better or the Microsoft is doing better, and how both of these are faring in terms of how the market is headed, right, based on the S&P. So that is the case. You'll have access to a data dictionary, so that you'll get to know the definition of each of the variables which are there for this case. And then, in order to solve the case, either you can do it by point and click, which means you do not have to code, or if you like to code, then the console is integrated again. You can either code in Python and R to solve the problem, and then there's a set of quiz questions that you need to answer, right? Now, many of you would like to first go to the quiz and see what is the question, and then go back to the case and answer that question, right? This is a simple, straightforward case. For the second case, a little bit higher on difficulty level, where you need to understand the problem a little bit better before getting into the quiz question. So, for example, the first question is test for normality using the Shapiro-Wilk test for daily log return. So the Apple stock daily, the log return of the Apple stock, and then you need to do a distribution test. And one of the popular tests, as if some of you are have gone through your probability studies, of course, you'll know that Shapiro-Wilk test is one of the tests for normality. So you need to choose that algorithm to apply, or you need to program that, right? So, so you can do that. Now, how does the point and click look like? So as you click on the point and click environment, a snapshot of the data is in front of you. So you'll see the variables, and it gives a spreadsheet kind of a look and feel, right? Now, if I want to, so for example, if I click on the high of the Apple stock at a daily level, and I want to create something, I want to do a, let's say, check the distribution by doing a histogram. So I search for, on the left-hand panel, I search for the histogram function, you'll see that there are different function families. Each of the function family has different functions and algorithms which are made available to you point and click to apply, right? So data management, data mining, data visualization, math and stat, machine learning, time series, statistics, and so forth, right? So you do not need to program, you search for histogram and you apply. Now, what is important for you to know that whether histogram is the right one to apply or I want to do something else, right? So to meet the objective of this case. So I just just to show this, I'll just click on histogram and I'll say execute. So what's happening now? This function is automatically getting executed. There's a parser which is handshaking with the Python or the R program, whichever that is, and the result is in front of you, right? So so when you are solving this case, every step that you get will get recorded in the right hand side panel. If you see here, I just ran a histogram, and the function is noted in front of you, so that when you solve the problem, you'll be assessed at the back end at what your approach was. If you do not want to do that, you can click on console and you can do free flow programming for solving this case as well. Okay. Now let me move on to and then after you solve the case, you answer a few questions of the quiz question, and then move on to the next case. So the case 3B, or the next case, is a little bit more contextual, which is case study for a manufacturing shop floor. And when you go through it, you'll understand that what was the business problem. So the business problem is sales of a product and equipment is declining, and the sales manager thinks that it's because there's some defects in the quality. The quality has gone down, but the shop floor manager doesn't think so, right? So there's a conflict. The sales guy thinks that there's not able to meet his target because the product is not performing. The product manager thinks that the product is pretty good at the sales performance. So how do you resolve this conflict? This is a pretty much a day in and a day out scenario in a professional world. That is where the math comes handy, right? So that is where, if you analyze the historical data and then explain that, hey, here's the exact reason what is happening, right? Probably both of you are right, and this is what his data is telling, so that you can narrow down on the problem and solve for it. So that's where the data analytics and the math comes handy, because that's the common language everybody understands, right? So that's the case which will be presented in front of you, where it will be the objective will be very clear that, okay, you need to do this, you need to look at the data to analyze, you need to do some historical product analysis, that at what point in time sales went down and what happened, right? Then you draw insight and you apply your critical thinking and say, okay, probably these are the reason why the sales has gone down, and here are the three problems that we need to solve to bring the sales back on track, right? So that's the case study in a nutshell that you need to solve. Again, the data dictionary that will be in front of you. You can solve this case by point and click or by programming in the console, and then take the quiz, right? Now, some of the quiz questions here also will be subjective type, where your storytelling will be that skill will come in the forefront. So if you say that, okay, I thought based on the data, this is the insight, and I thought this can be the action that can be taken. That's very, very valuable as a data analyst, as a business analyst, when you are prescribing something to the business, that, all right, because we dropped our quality standard, instead of Six Sigma, we went down for 3 months on assessing the quality of the product, and hence some faulty pieces went out there in the market, and it kind of dropped our reputation in the market, which was the primary result where the sales went down, right? So that they will specifically focus on the quality for a particular feature in the product. So that is how you kind of marry the insight with and then do the recommendation to the business and create impact. Okay, so I will stop here because I think I have 10 minutes left for the Q&A, and I think it was a pretty rapid demo, but I hope most of you got the hang. But please do visit the portal, go through it, go through the mock assessment, because you can go to mock assessment. Nobody is assessing the mock assessment much, right? So you'll be only for the section 1 is where you'll get the reports. For the section 2 and 3, if you book the assessment, next assessment, then there'll be backend team which will be assessing and then highlighting the gaps which you may have and what are the areas that you can focus on, so that you are ready for the assessment on 24th April. So go visit the site. Now, one more thing that I just wanted to highlight. So there are ample of resources, right, which are available. I'm sure many of you have your own way to prepare, to get acquainted with different topics. We also, for each of the assessment areas, we also do some prescribe certain areas where you can focus on to prepare, right? So we have a proprietary platform called Nautica Treasure Hunt Leaps. Leaps stand for Learn, Apply, and Solve. It's called leaps.nautica.com, where there are different learning resources which are out there, which you can utilize, and all of these courses are application oriented, contextual, simulated, case study based. So for example, if you look at fundamentals of data analytics, which will cover certain set of topics, where you'll get access to 13 data cases where you can hone your case resolution, application orientation skills, right? So each of the section is divided into different modules. Each module will have reading content, audio video content, and everything will be directed towards the case that you would need to solve. Then there are quiz questions which you can practice on. You can solve the cases. For example, this one is learn to compute basic descriptive statistics. When you click proceed, then you are going to get an environment which looks closer to the section 3 of the assessment framework, where you are solving a case study, right? So there'll be a spreadsheet like a look and feel. You can solve the problem, point and click. You can look at the result. The code gets auto-generated so that you do not have to worry about the programming aspect, and you take the concept first approach. You can take this program to the coding console, which is integrated in the virtual lab and practice. So there is a plethora of learning resources which are available at leaps.analytica.com, which will, if you like, you can go practice for the assessment, which will help you in your different topics in the assessment section. Okay. Let me stop here. Sorry about starting a bit late again. I'm now opening it up for questions. I think we have about 10 minutes, and if anything else, please do shoot us an email, and we'll be very happy to get back to you with answers.
Great, Satyamoy. It was a very immersive, I would say, immersive session, specifically into all the details around what 3AI Catapult offers. One of the things which I actually liked was when you started with those 3 questions in terms of, I think these are standard questions which whether it's a working professional who wants to get into AI analytics or is a student who wants to get into AI analytics, I think that is something which is in their minds of the candidates there. And what a nice way of actually solving these questions through talking about critical thinking, adaptability, flexibility, innovation, as well as the communication aspect. Whether it's the hard skills or the soft skills, whether the skills which are needed for a data analyst, data visualization, data mining, to business analyst in terms of the segmentations and other things, to a data scientist in terms of the predictive, prescriptive world and the NLP and the machine learning. I think that was a story well mentioned. And when we actually went into the tool, one of the key USPs which you mentioned of this assessment specifically is that you get your own personalized detailed report in terms of highlighting your strengths, highlighting what are the things which you need to do. And I think that is something which is really great in terms of, so as an example, I'm knowing I being a student knowing, okay, what are the strengths which I have and what are the gaps which I need to fulfill. Uh, I think one other thing which I wanted to mention based on my experience has been that when we are interviewing candidates from a data science, from an analytics perspective, in the assessment you mentioned, it's not necessarily that you need to be good in programming. If you're not, then this assessment also assesses you on critical thinking, problem solving, application orientation, and contextualized application. And that's what we actually do when we are taking the interviews. We are not specifically looking only for programming skills. We are looking for
Right.
these critical thinking, problem solving, application oriented. We give these case studies to the candidates, and then we look for these 4 or 5 skills. And if the candidates are already prepared around these, I think it's a win-win situation for companies, for candidates, and it's a great thing to talk about and actually be part of. And also, as different individuals will have different levels of understanding on AI analytics, there are different levels of complexity in these assessments. And the 3 sections which you have put in terms of the objective type of questions, the programming skills, and the case studies, I think it's a very well structured assessment, very well thoughtful, thought through assessment which has been put in. I think one other thing which I think strongly feel is an asset to everyone who is a member and actually doing this assessment is that storytelling skill you mentioned
Yeah.
at almost at the end, that there is a section where you can also put in your kind of a story, uh, which actually tests your storytelling skills, which is absolute need right now from a data science, data analytics perspective in every organization. And so very well thought through assessment which comes in here. I'm sure this will be helpful for all the 3AI members uh, in terms of either starting their journey into AI analytics or moving to the next level. Some of the questions which were coming to me through WhatsApp. One specific question which was coming to me was a lot of students who are here, and they specifically kind of get confused with all the new tools and technologies which come in. Somebody wants to make their career in data and data visualization, somebody into R and Python. Uh, so what is your like 2 cents around, and for some reason, I thought my camera is on, and for some reason my camera was not on. Sorry about that. So what are your suggestions to students who are there in this forum? How to take their career to the next level? What are the tips and tricks you mention to them if they want to take their career to the next level? What will be your like 5 tips or 4 tips which you would give to
Yeah.
them?
Sure, sure. No, that's a very important question, right? And if we put ourselves in the shoes of students and early days in their career, that's a very important question that always comes to us. That where should I focus, right? Because and like I said before, that sometimes it's a problem of plenty. Sometimes it also creates a confusing state that okay, whether I want to do a Power BI or whether I want to do a Tableau, right? Whether I want to learn NumPy or Pandas, right? Whether I want to focus on SAS or R. Now, one thing that pretty much you need to be very very clear in your mind that the tools are important, but the tools are not absolutely important, right? So if you know how to program in one language, you're good. Okay, if you want to pick up Python, you are good. If you know one visualization tool, and it can be anything. You do not need to know Tableau to get a Tableau job. Really, right? You do not need to know Power BI to be a successful data visualization engineer. What is important is to understand when to apply what, because pretty much everything is similar, right? So when you want to draw a histogram to look at how your age or income is distributed, you will do pretty much the same histogram, whether you doing it in Python or an R or using Tableau or Power BI, right? So that shouldn't be a concern. What is important for you to know behaviorally, that you need to first believe that this is for you. This is, you can be successful in this space. You need to be fearless, right? So do not worry. Go read what Google is doing, what Netflix is saying. They're not really concerned anymore if you come from a math or a stat or a programming background, right? As long as you have a little bit of a quant savviness, and as long as you are skilled in the right way. And that is where the three things which come into play, which I kind of emphasized at the beginning as well, is your ability to be critically examining the context, your ability to be very nimble and flexible, right? And that's very important, because sometimes what happens is, if I'm good at something, I have this tendency to apply that over and over again, right? So if I'm good at logistic regression, even if it's a simple cross step that I need to do faster, I would have a tendency to do that. So that rigidity has to go away, which means you need to be open, agile, and nimble to accept the new stuffs which keep on coming. And that's not difficult if you have the mindset and then the application orientation. There are three things that if you focus well, you will be good, right? And that's the Kapil, that's the thought process that we kind of began with, right, when we started discussing Analytica. And how do I make it come to life in blood and flesh, right? So pretty much all the hiring managers today that we spoke with said, they kind of talked in a common language, but something that was missing is, how do you actually assess that? How do you actually bring that to life? And that's the attempt of this framework, where through the three sections we are trying to highlight these are the core skills that if you have. And as Kapil, you rightly said, that you do not need to get to the result, right, always, but how you're applying. Now, one of the common examples, I don't know how much time we have. Okay, I'll probably take that in a subsequent sessions, but I was kind of tempted to give one of the examples, which I'll reserve for now to be able to answer other questions. But hopefully it kind of addresses the question that was asked.
No, definitely. And I think you rightly said that the more agile you are, the more nimble you are in terms of adapting, the more successful will you be. This is true for students, working professional, everyone, and even for myself, because of the disruption which keeps on coming in companies and new technologies. You need to be agile. You need to be adaptable to these, understanding them, and then kind of changing your gear, shifting your gear at the right time. And I think the 3i Analytica course, or I would say the assessment which comes in at the right time, with all the right mix of ingredients for working professionals, for students, even for senior people, for companies. It's a great thing, and I am sure people would like to leverage it.
Yeah. See, I mean, I also like to add that one thing for sure is there's no shortcut, right? No shortcut here. So if you are hearing about the crash courses and that, okay, you spend 3 weeks and you'll be good at machine learning, please don't pay attention, because there's no shortcut. One thing for sure is the survival for fittest. So that Darwin was right 100 years back. It's still true that it's not the survival is not for the best, it's for the fittest, right? So you need to make yourself fit. And Kapil, as you say that we need to, the future is going towards agility, because the science part will be solved. All the dots will be there. How you are connecting the dots and how you are continuously evolving yourself to be fit in this space is what will make you successful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Satyamoy. As I earlier mentioned, very engrossing, very detailed session today. Thank you so much for making time this Sunday, talking about this, walking us through the overall 3i Catapult assessment and the framework, as well as the construct therein. This was a very useful session. I'm sure this would have been a very useful session for the audience also. Thank you again, and wish you a very happy rest of the Sunday.
Thank you, Kapil. Thanks for having me here. Thank you all the participants for joining. I hope all of you found it useful. Please do visit the portal, and if any questions that you're not able to ask now, feel free to shoot us an email. We'll be very happy. The team will be very happy to get back to you with your answers.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.